Now, to talk more about this campaign, let me speak plainly about the campaign, not the rain in Spain. In fact, we're pleased to be joined from my old stomping grounds in the Valley of the Sun out in Arizona, the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Politistic.com, Jennifer Burke, and also joining us via Skype, professor at the University of Maryland and syndicated columnist, why it's our favorite economist, Peter Morici. Jen, let me start with you. New documents reveal that the Clinton email investigation caused a disagreement between the State Department and the FBI over whether some of Mrs. Clinton's emails should be considered classified. In fact, one top State Department official tried to pressure the FBI to change its determination that at least one of the emails on her private server contained classified content. A possible quid pro quo setting up some overseas assignments for FBI agents was suggested to settle the dispute. Jennifer, in your mind, was this in fact quid pro quo?
Oh, it's obvious it was. And in fact, I read that in the FBI report, the words quid pro quo were actually used. And, you know, when I watched leftist pundits speak about the Podesta emails and the WikiLeaks, they try to pin it, on Russian government trying to influence the American elections. They don't want to talk about the content because the content is very damaging, not only to Hillary Clinton, but to the federal government, period. Whether or not something is classified should not be a negotiable issue based upon whether you want some kind of job determination overseas.
Peter Morici, let me turn to you because College Park, a veritable stone's throw from the nation's capital, and the buzz around Washington for the past couple of days has been FBI agents, albeit unidentified, seeking out members of the media, saying that they're fed up with FBI Director James Comey. Apparently, these agents are outraged that he did not recommend the Justice Department indict Hillary Clinton. One is even quoted as saying, "We talk about it in the office and don't know how Comey can keep going." You know, Peter, it seems in the old days when people would have problems, they would resign. But now all these guys want to hang on to their jobs. I've even heard it suggested that Comey thinks one day when they remodel the Hoover building, it will bear his name. Do you think he's in it for that kind of vainglory?
Oh, I don't know because I don't know the man, but I do know this. The FBI has been prone to political corruption, just as the IRS over the years. I mean, some of the activities of J. Edgar Hoover were highly questionable, going the other way. What I do know about the FBI from observing it over 40 years is they are very keen at putting their finger out the window and catching which way the wind blows, and then adjusting their prosecution to go that way. I mean, think about it this way. Why did the FBI not investigate the ongoings at the IRS? The answer is ultimately the FBI reports to a political appointee. And the political appointee is the Attorney General, who has not demonstrated great political independence or good judgment in even displaying some modicum of political independence.
Now, you know, it seems like Loretta Lynch just sits there like in days of yore with a drive-in, and she takes down what they want on the menu from the White House and the Clinton campaign, and she serves it right up. But here is something that some viewers may be surprised about. Former Harvard law professor and famed attorney Alan Dershowitz, a liberal Democrat, was on Newsmax Prime last night. Alan says there needs to be an investigation into the FBI. Let's look and listen.
As a liberal Democrat supporter of Hillary Clinton, the chips have to fall where they may. Everything should be looked into. Everything is fair game. Everything should be investigated. Everybody should be investigated. No one is above the law. A political candidate, even a sitting president, is not above the law.
Jennifer, if only other liberal Democrats would play it straight like Dershowitz is talking.
If only. I mean, I've said many times ever since the whole Emailgate investigation, the revelations with the Podesta emails, that it's incredible the lack of intellectual honesty on the part of people when it comes to very dangerous actions by our government. It's no wonder the American people don't trust the federal government, because there are two sets of rules. That's one thing the Democrats have tried to say when it comes to criminality in the Justice Department. except they try to say, oh, there are two sets of rules, and the poor are indiscriminately jailed more frequently. The reality is, if you're wealthy and especially progressive, as Hillary Clinton has proved, you can get away with almost anything. Anyone else, Comey himself said, who would have done what she did would likely have faced consequences. Hillary says, I accept the consequences. She's had no consequences.
And we invite your calls at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Well, watching all the concerns about corruption on the other side, there was Donald Trump on the stump last night in Wisconsin, doubling down on vote fraud claims. Let's take a look.
They even want to try to rig the election at the polling booths. And believe me, there's a lot going on. Do you ever hear these people? They say there's nothing going on. People that have died 10 years ago are still voting. Illegal immigrants are voting. I mean, where are the street smarts of some of these politicians?
So, Peter, there you are in the People's Republic of Maryland, not to point fingers, but pretty solidly Democrat, despite the election of Governor Hogan a couple of years ago. Do you have concerns about what goes on with voting and possible rigging of the election?
Well, I certainly have problems with what goes on in voting. I mean, the courts have ruled that you can't require a photo ID to vote. So it is very difficult to discern who is a citizen and who is not, who is entitled to vote and who isn't. I mean, somebody basically has to tip off authorities and they decide to come and arrest you. Think about this. The federal government requires me tomorrow to go to my college to meet with a woman who has worked with me for the last 20-odd years. I am required to show her my photo ID simply to get my health care package for next year. I have an email that says you must show your photo ID. So a person that knows me has to require my photo ID just to give me a package that gives me my options for health care for next year.
How much more so for voting?
But it won't require a photo ID to vote. The whole situation is absolutely absurd. What you've got here is a system that is rigged to harvest immigrants and others for the purposes of creating a Democratic majority. It's that simple. Our country is being stolen from us by people who are cynical and purchased. And basically, it's not like they're independent people with an agenda. Hillary Clinton is owned and operated by Goldman Sachs.
Yep, and Carlos Slim giving money and open borders and all that. Listen,
right,
Jennifer Burke,
Slim. Can you believe that?
Time has gotten us right here, but we're going to bring you both back. Peter, thank you very much. Jennifer Burke, we're going to have more from you. And we're asking for your phone calls as well at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629.
I wonder if they even knew that the mic was on, because they were kind of a boy talk, and he was lead on, like egg on, from the host to say dirty and bad stuff.
You feel the host, Billy Bush, was sort of egging him on?
Yes.
Melania Trump on CNN with Anderson Cooper. You heard them talking about Billy Bush and what Donald Trump calls the locker room language that has caused some difficulties on the campaign trail. As we welcome you back to America Talks Live, reminding you that you can join our conversation at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Rejoined by our panel, Jennifer Burke from Arizona, Peter Morici from Maryland, and on the phone from Bellevue, New Jersey, it's Dolores. Dolores, what's on your mind?
I want to know, how can any American vote for a corrupt woman that destabilized the whole Middle East, got that little kid that was sitting there that got a bomb, because she's the one with Obama that caused this war. We got dead people that come back to America, soldiers, because she corrupted the whole Middle East.
Dolores, we appreciate your call about Hillary Clinton's stewardship or lack thereof in terms of our national security and foreign policy. Jennifer Burkett speaks to a larger question. You can hear the frustration in the voice of Dolores. The notion, and going back to the election and rigging, to have, and I think Mr. Trump has come up with the classic term, the corporate media all in the tank, so blatantly, to have almost $400,000 in donations going to Mrs. Clinton as opposed to a paltry $11,000, I believe, for Donald Trump. It is as if the media is all in, doing their best to destroy a Trump candidacy. Do you see it that way?
The media has always been all in, at least in the last, several elections, to destroy the Republican candidate. In 2008, they loved John McCain during the primary, loved him, pushed him. And then when the general election hit, they destroyed him. 2012, Mitt Romney. I might not have agreed with everything Mitt Romney believed in, but he was a good and honest man. And they were so desperate to destroy him that they had to take his binder full of women. He had women who he was actively looking at to hire in upper level positions, and they turned that into a negative. It's the way, it's what the media does, sadly, unfortunately. It's really not anything new. We've just gotten a deeper look into the real reality of it with not only the WikiLeaks email, but also the revelation. There was a website composed of many different Democrats and many different members of the media where you could see them colluding with each other. That's what makes this election different, is that we actually have been able to see communications between the media and the Democrat Party, and that kind of makes it all worse.
And of course, back in 2008, Peter, it was Journo List, but that was after the fact. Now it's totally blatant, and the way that one newspaper ombudsman is trying to sell it is that somehow reporters have a higher ethical duty to try and save the nation from Donald Trump. How sick and arrogant is that take?
Well, this is a wartime mentality. When you're at war, the media is expected to get behind the government because there's this terrible existential threat. And Donald Trump is viewed as such by the liberal elite who frankly run the media. But I also blame the Republican Party for letting this happen. For example, you look at NBC. If there's ever a corrupt operation, it's NBC. They blacklist conservative journalists. They work hand in glove with the Clinton campaign. It's about time we consider the fact that NBC has outlets in every city and town in the country. These UHF stations are highly prized, and it gives it essentially a privileged access. Should the Federal Communications Commission be permitting any longer, under any kind of doctrine of equal treatment, to permit NBC to run 10 minutes chastising Donald Trump for the allegations of sexual misconduct, which I have to admit must be covered and must be vetted, and then just a few minutes just casually mentioning that Hillary Clinton had more WikiLeaks dumps, but without getting into it very much. Because that's the sort of stuff that goes on.
Yeah, but that whole question, though, Peter, deals with government regulation, the First Amendment rights, and I understand the economics of broadcasting and the FCC granting licenses, but once we start down that slippery slope of content, because Mr. Obama was headed in that direction, and you better believe Mrs. Clinton, unchecked, will head in that direction. I hear what you're saying, but let's get to some more calls at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629.
I'd like to respond to that.
Well, I appreciate that. I just got to let some folks who call in get on. But you'll like this, Peter. The lady's from Maryland. She's from Baltimore. It's Sandy. Sandy, welcome to the program.
Oh, hi, JD.
Hi.
My question is, have you ever heard anything about Loretta Lynch being on the short list for Hillary Clinton's Supreme Court?
Well, that whole thing, Jennifer Burke, and we'll let Peter come back to me on this. And Sandy, I appreciate the question. Since it happened out there in Phoenix, and you're over in Gilbert, Arizona, Jennifer, that whole meeting between Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch at Sky Harbor Airport, what do you think was behind that? Saying, hey, you help us out here, we'll keep you as Attorney General, or who knows, there might be a Supreme Court vacancy?
Quid pro quo, JD, the Clintons are all about doing favors for people and something in return. That meeting between Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton was not by chance. They were on two separate private planes. One plane was held over. I think it's an insult to the American people's intelligence to say, oh, we were just saying hi as old friends and talking about our grandchildren. No, I don't think so. There was some kind of deal. Again, we see how dirty and corrupt this regime is currently under Obama, with Hillary Clinton as part of it, and I wouldn't doubt that she's on the short list for a Hillary Clinton Supreme Court appointment.
Now, let me return to my friend Peter Morici, because I want him to be able to respond to my concerns about what can happen through the FCC and licensing in terms of a chilling effect with broadcast content. Go ahead, Peter.
Well, no right is absolute, whether it's freedom of the press, freedom of speech, and so forth. And for example, feminists tend to view the right to privacy as absolute, and therefore they can do anything to a fetus that they like. And we say there should be limits on that. Or you can't yell fire in a movie house, and so forth. Likewise, religious freedom. I mean, to apply your standard, then there should be no vetting different for Syrians than there is, say, for, Germans coming into the country, or Spaniards, or Japanese. And that simply doesn't make sense given the resources that are available. It is one thing to say we should investigate the New York Times. There's no special privilege that has been anointed upon the New York Times. It just happens to be in a very liberal city where it can get away with it, or subscribers would leave, as, for example, happened in Arizona. But with the broadcast media, there are certain franchises that have particular value and are in very much short supply. And when they all go in a particular direction, it seems to me reasonable for Republicans to cast a spotlight on this, to at least create a high level of discomfort, and then to basically highlight some of their practices so they're under pressure to change their ways and become somewhat more objective. Liberals do it all the time. That's how they captured the Wall Street Journal.
Fair enough. Let's go back to the phones now to Hillsboro, Indiana, where Alicia has been waiting patiently. Hello, Alicia.
Hi. I wanted to go back about the whole rigging of the election. If Hillary were to rig an election, she'd be in office. Is there something that the American people can do that could get her back out? Like, would she have to be impeached or something?
Well,
that we could do?
Alicia, the constitutional remedy is impeachment, but of course that needs to be followed by conviction in the United States Senate. And the irony of this situation, Jennifer Burke, and we only have about a minute left, is the notion, remember what happened with Bill Clinton. He committed perjury. I was a member of Congress. I voted to impeach him, but the Senate refused to convict him. So we're back to partisan composition of the Senate, and some people who may not have the courage of conviction when it comes to political convenience. Jennifer, you get the final word, 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know this, JD. When you become a member of Congress, you swear an oath to uphold and protect and defend the Constitution. And really what we see is people defending and protecting their party, not the country, and not the Constitution. And that's why we have the corruption in government we do today.
Jennifer Burke from Gilbert, Arizona. Peter Morici from College Park, Maryland, the professor, always with invigorating thoughts. And Jen always taking us back to the source, the Constitution, as it should be. We appreciate your input, your analysis, and look forward to having you back real soon. Obviously, we invite you wherever you are to call in just as Alicia did at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. And when we come back, how bad is the trouble Donald Trump might face with women voters? We'll talk about it with media and branding expert Erica Spiegelman. But again, we'll also invite your calls. After all, the name of the program is America Talks Live. Back with more after this.